Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Welcome to Why We Roll,
a tabletop role-playing game design podcast by the Stillfleet Studio.
We're your hosts, Chris Pickett, creator of the historical fantasy game Dance Macabre,
and Wythe Marshall, creator of the political sci-fi game Stillfleet.
Through the show, we hope to amplify new creative voices.
We chat with different indie TTRPG designers, talking through a range of questions that are pertinent to many designers, players, and GMs.
We hope to showcase fresh and even challenging ideas about what makes imagination-based games so powerful.
Before we introduce today's guest, a reminder. If you enjoy this episode, please consider supporting the show and all of our games over at patreon.com/Stillfleet.
Okay, let's find out why we roll. Alright, what's up, gamers? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Why We Roll, the tabletop role-playing game chat show from the Stillfleet Studio. As always, I am one of your co-hosts, Christopher Pickett, the creator of Dance Macabre Medieval Horror Role-Playing, and I'm joined, as always, again, by my wonderful friend and co-host, Wythe Marshall, creator of Stillfleet Super Sci-Fi Political RPG.
What's up, Chris? Excited to talk sci-fi today.
Yeah, we're in for a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah, with I think a guest who I'm gonna guess, gonna go out on a limb, knows a thing or two about sci-fi and games. So yeah, really excited to have Zach Cox on. So Zach, what's up, man? Thanks for making time.
Thank you both so much for having me, and thank you for making this little arc of Orbital Blues Month themed shows for this big collaboration month we're running in a few weeks. I'm really excited to sit down and chat about Orbital Blues and much more, hopefully.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. For a little bit of context for folks, we met Zach at PAX Unplugged 2025. We had the pleasure of tabling next to you with SoulMuppet UK. We should say the name of your company, of course. But yeah, we got to table next to SoulMuppet. It was a lot of fun to hang out. And I heard Orbital Blues described as sad cowboys in space more times than I can count. So I'm ready for it. I'm ready to get sad. I'm ready to be a cowboy, and I'm ready to go to outer space.
It's really a technology, learning how to pitch games in an incredibly short amount of time.
Yeah.
You'd have met myself and also Moll, who's my marketing and events manager at SoulMuppet, and we've done a lot of shows now selling this and many other games, and 3-word pitches, there's a lot of potency to those. We've got a lot of 3-game pitches on the stand. We just got back from GAMA, the Game Manufacturers Expo in Louisville, Kentucky, where we were selling all of our books to retailers. And the argument being there, well, if we can't fit the pitch for this game on a Post-it note, how are you going to sell it to your customers? Because, there's a lot of complexity there. And, I feel like it's really easy to get caught up in, pitching your game and making it around well, what does it mean to me? How is this based on my relationship with politics or sociology or games, or what niche does this fit in? What genre is it meant to emulate? No, for me, it's just write it down on a Post-it note. For Orbital Blues, that Post-it note is Sad Space Cowboys.
Yeah. First of, I'm sure not the last good business advice here. So for RPG designers, folks who are maybe thinking about selling, PDF or a zine or even a bigger project, I think Zach, I'm gonna guess you'll have lots to say, but I completely agree. I think it's interesting. It's also from a thematic standpoint interesting to try to refine it down, because it really it's like the classic haiku constraint thing. When you only have a few words, it really forces you to think about, wait, what is my game ultimately about? Not just what are some things in the back of my mind at random, but what are the most intentional, 3 bullets or whatever that I want to bring forward. So yeah, we're excited to talk about Orbital Blues, and we're excited to talk about Orbital Blues Month. So this is the first series we've done like this. So Chris, when you and I started talking about the show, we wanted to explore themes and thematic arcs, and I think we've done a good job of that.
Yeah, we've picked up some threads.
For sure. But we've kind of kept it to like interview, all sort of solo creators. So we're still going to have several interviews. This is a 4-part series. If all goes well, knock on wood, everybody's going to show up and have a great time chatting. And Zach, thanks for helping organize this chat in addition to Orbital Blues Month. So we're going to let you say more about Orbital Blues Month, but the quick pitch being, bringing a sci-fi game that's cool, to an even bigger audience through Backerkit, and you're making lots of games with other people. Lots of people are making game products, adventures, extensions of the game, and so that's one thing we're interested in is collaboration. We're interested in the business of indie RPGs, and we're interested in genre and how other different people approach the same genre. So those are just some of the threads I think that emerged. But yeah, we thought, it'd be interesting to do some of these mini series where we dig a little bit deeper into one game, but maybe in this case through different creators' viewpoints. So since you're one of the people who originated the game, which is something we should talk about, we thought we'd have you on first. And maybe, I don't know, Zach, if you want to say anything else to pitch what, Orbital Blues Month is and kind of how you're thinking of it and why it's exciting to you before we kind of probably rewind and talk a little more about the game itself.
Totally. I'm Zach, or Jelly Muppet. I run a company called SoulMuppet Publishing. We are a UK-based indie RPG company that makes games that are rules-lite, flavor-forward, and really interested in genre emulation. I've been making RPGs now for about 7 or 8 years, full-time for about 5. So there's a lot of stuff there. Orbital Blues is a collaboration. It comes from me and 2 other creators. I'm the mechanics person. I wrote most of the rules. And then my incredible co-creators, Sam Sleeney, came up with the original idea, writes all our adventures, does all the art, is the sort of vibes guy behind... No, not does all the art, apologies. Does all the writing and the lore and the flavour and the setting. And then Josh is our artist who has designed like a really gorgeous and cohesive language for how the game looks and feels, and like the really stunning layout of the work has come from that. And it's really like the cohesion of our 3 parts together, because role-playing games are ultimately worlds expressed through rules and art and words, and those are where those 3 things come together. Orbital Blues Month specifically for us is about us like growing and nurturing a nascent third-party scene that really excites us. Like, we've made lots of books for Orbital Blues now. There's all manner of things. If you come across a SoulMuppet stand or look at the website, there's not only the core book itself, but a VHS box set adventure, a collection of 5 soft covers, a big hardcover expansion with a huge adventure in it, 3 cassette albums with 4 coming soon, a GM screen, a solo game, like every imaginable thing you could want for an RPG. And Orbital Blues Month is just about taking that and growing it up to 11. We've really been working... We've had, since day one, for all of SoulMuppet's games, a really generous community license, borrowed from stuff like Troika, stuff like Mothership, stuff like Mouse Ritter, that has a very basic terms in terms of license, like say that this is designed for this game, include this logo, and mention that we didn't make it, and then you can make whatever you want for the game for free. It's free, it's irrevocable from our end, and it means that you can make money making Orbital Blues stuff, and we're cool with that. There's been lots of little collaborations over the last 5 years since the game came out, of people making their own thing, and we've reached out to a bunch of those creators and a few more and said, hey, let's make more Orbital Blues stuff. So alongside SoulMuppet's new offering for the month, which is a book called Outlaws and Corporations, which is a Tet Besh book, which is basically explaining it as quickly as possible. The best way to get this is to go to our project page and look at it. The front half of the book is Orbital Blues Outlaws, and then you flip it over. And then the other half of the book, reading backwards towards the middle, is Orbital Blues Corporations. So Outlaws and Corporations is split from head to toe to head to foot. And that means it's two books smushed together, one of which is about the horrible, shady corporations which run the galaxy, and the other which is about the criminal underbelly of interstellar outlaws, including the players, which compete against that as the sort of more chaotic side of the spectrum. And then we've got a bunch of other creators all weighing in with their cool ideas of what's happening. We've got a bunch of adventures. We've got some new open world settings and some audio logs. The whole thing is kind of bookended by music, like Orbital Blues is. And there's like a collaboration album that we are offering with a single from each of the projects. You know, they're all smushed together into a single EP that you get a copy of if you order enough books. It's really like, well, enough things from different projects, and they're all sort of little giveaways like these collaboration months tend to have. So Orbital Blues Month for us is a chance to grow and nurture a third-party space and get other people to use our game, our world that we've created to turn something exciting of their own, which is really cool. And then grow that out into something which, you know, gets more projects and products growing as into the future. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is Outlaws and Corporations kind of like a House of Leaves thing where you're flipping the book upside down to read it one way and then back the other?
Exactly that. So
Nice.
if you're imagining you're reading it one way like this, and then if you flip it 180 degrees upside down, it's the other half of the book, and then they meet in the middle.
Yeah, that's
It's
great.
not like fully House of Leaves, as in like
you don't have like cut
it's
out
got
windows.
all the weird omnidirectional stuff, but it's definitely got weird shapes in it. And part of that for us was like writing the same book twice.
Yeah.
But featuring different combinations of stuff for the half it's written for. So
yeah, that's really
that's
interesting.
mainly been a project that Sam and Josh have been focusing on while I like go through the process of corralling all of these other creators, some of whom you'll be able to speak to later this month.
It's such
really
a cool format.
Thing.
We looked at it for Blister Critters for the first major setting supplement, which we're going to end up doing half of, but we looked into doing one for Australia and one for New Zealand. So it'd be a book about Down Under where it's Tetbesh, which I think it's so wonderful to see someone actually do that because it's a really cool format. It's like a really simple hack for taking two themes and like bringing them together beautifully. And yeah, Chris, to your question, like you don't actually need to flip back and forth depending on how you write it. But I think it's cool. It almost like is intriguing as just an object, right? From product design, you want to like pick it up and do this.
Yeah, you want
so
to play around
I'm
with
for
it.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to literally doing that, like picking this book up and doing that. But yeah, Zach, you mentioned we're going to have on other folks, so we should just shout them out in case anyone, depending on when the podcast drops, which maybe we can make sure happens obviously by April, but you know, we can kind of promote that we have a few more interviews planned. So we will leave those projects largely mysterious, just in the interest of, you know, leaving space for the longer hour-long discussions. But on Monday, March 23rd at 7, our usual time slot, we're going to be speaking with Josh Demansky, who's done a lot, obviously, for Liminal Horror and a whole bunch of other games. I'm so excited. I don't know Josh personally. I'm really excited to learn more about his work. And then on Sunday, March 29th, at 7, we're talking to Adam Good, who's a friend. He's really great. Game designer, Stations. And then on Monday, March 30th, so again, a regular spot, we're talking with Wes Franks, who we've had on the show before and we're big fans of in general. So we were excited that Wes had a very cool idea for Orbital Blues Month. So that is our little mini-series, just kind of highlighting some of the creators. I am sure they're all equally fantastic, but we have limited time. So we reached out to some folks we know, thanks to Zach. So with that, I'd like to, usually we do start a little more backward in time, Zach, but I really feel like maybe if you could just give not the quick pitch, but a little more in-depth pitch on like what Orbital Blues is. So you mentioned the quick pitch, you mentioned jazz, but if folks aren't as familiar with how it plays, how would you kind of just cue it up if someone gave you a full, you know, minute as opposed to 10 seconds to tell them about Orbital Blues, and you know why it's still exciting for you. Because I will say, not everyone makes lots and lots of products for a game. So I maybe this is a question: do you find it still fun and creative yourself as a creator to go back to the same game and extend it, and you know maybe how that's evolved? But just so we have a little more background, like what does Orbital Blues mean to you? You know, what is the game?
I mean, there's definitely works that I've like gone to and finished the first book and gone, yeah, this is finished. That's like what I want to do with it. Like Inevitable, which is one of my games, is a really good example. Like that book is done. I'm not going to make anything else in that world, even though it's something I'm like gorgeously passionate about. That is my like doomed Arthurian Western RPG I wrote that is kind of telling the story of an apocalypse of this great civilization that's being like destroyed, and your characters not knowing how to deal with the grief of this thing that hasn't happened yet, and sort of building on that. Like that work's done. I don't need to write any setting. It's more setting. It's finished. Whereas Orbital Blues is an entire galaxy, and it's not mine, and it belongs to me and other people, and it belongs to more people now that other people have made stuff for it as well. So ultimately, because it's a work that for me is less of my personal authorial vision, anything I make about it is always going to be a conversation. And that means that innovating new ideas and new products for it is just so much easier, right? Because it's about what cool things could I make with my friends. And the other thing is that, like, Inevitable being done, it's because it's a place, it's an idea, it's done, it's finished. Whereas Orbital Blues is a galaxy. I could write Orbital Blues for 100 years and never be bored, because there's so many different things you do. There's so many themes you can explore. There's so many locations and magical ideas and different spaceships and corporations and genres that fit within the idea of what Orbital Blues is. And Orbital Blues itself, I guess, at the most fundamental level, it's a space western, right? It's about you and your characters playing a group of down on their luck, depressed, self-employed spacers on a rust bucket spaceship with a mortgage you cannot afford in a Dust Bowl retro future Americana. That is like appearing as a result of all of these ideas that we're talking about, right? The galaxy is dominated by these corporations. Capitalism is at large, written across the stars, and it is not making the galaxy a happy place to live. Your characters, during character creation, they pick the reason they have depression, which is their trouble. It is like a couple bullet points worth of questions about your backstory and a couple prompts that make you role play in a bad or stupid way.
Where do I
that
start?
relates to the saddest thing that ever happened to you. And the way you get experience points is you answer those questions and you role play in line with those ideas. And that turns every character into this sort of broiling, ridiculous disaster bastard who makes these wonderful decisions. And you're encouraging your players to role play, right? And then when you get enough sad points, your blues, you have an emotional breakdown and you level up. And that is just how the game works. I could see someone in the comments saying, imagine putting capitalist trauma directly into a game. Yes, that is every single game I have ever made. Orbital Blues is about how much I hated being self-employed and how difficult it was to make ends meet. You know, Best Left Buried, my first game, was about having a job I hated and how it was affecting my mental health. Inevitable is about my struggle with the idea the world is ending and what I'm going to do about it. And, you know, Paint the Town Red, my newest game, is about something very bad happening to me a very long time ago and trying to chase the sensation of being alive while dealing with it. And the games I'll make in the future will continue to be about those things, because art is about the human condition, and the human condition right now is having to live through capitalism. And when you're living through capitalism in the form of this book, we're talking about all of the art for Orbital Blues is this amazing stuff done by Josh. Half of it is like photo kit bash illustrations in this wondrous, like, sketchy in-world style. But all my favorite pieces are in-world advertising materials for companies that don't exist, right? There are all of these business cards and posters and band advertisements and election campaign slogans and every single imaginable bit of skeuomorphic ephemera we stuff into this book. And so when you're flicking through it, when you're reading the book and playing it, you immediately understand the place you're in and the world you exist in. All the books we make at SoulMuppet try to come with a sense of place and a sense of genre, and then the mechanics and the text lead through from how that art and how that design feels to push you further into that sense of genre emulation that I was talking about earlier as being like one of the three pillars of the games. So it's a game about trying to make ends meet and trying to sort of dealing with found family and how you're feeling and trauma and pushing that out and doing it while, playing a guitar and, having a shootout in space. And it's really cool and fun,
Yeah. Can you walk us through like very nuts and bolts? What does the kind of like typical play loop look like? You're going out, I'm assuming you're getting missions, you're getting the blues, you're having breakdowns, but can you walk us through like a session or a campaign, like kind of what the arc looks like for a character?
So the session of a campaign typically involves like your characters being in a place and needing to have money to buy food and fix your spaceship. The driving mechanical feature of Orbital Blues in terms of like what actually incentivizes gameplay is how weird the money system is. And it's in this idea that like, because you are a member of this self-employed working class, while you are opting into being a cowboy, that is not something you're ever capable of escaping. All money that you earn, you can maybe use some of it to buy make the tiniest bit of savings or get an upgrade or fix your spaceship. But apart from that tiny little tidbit you get at the end of each session, 100% of your money is immediately swallowed by your spaceship.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. This is all feeling a little too close to home, actually. It's really not like sci-fi at all.
Well, because
you have a 1-bedroom spaceship or 1.5 bedroom.
I mean, that's what it is, right?
If you're lucky,
you can't own the spaceship either. There's a mortgage on it that is belonging to a company somewhere that doesn't want you to exist. And you probably have student loan debt too. Not that any sad space cowboy probably went to university or college, but you know what I mean.
Only the saddest cowboys went to university.
I mean, yeah, so the driving force of each game is like trying to get enough money to scrape things together, and that inevitably results in crime because like that's what the space cowboys do. So you could end up doing other things. There are definitely like legitimate ways to make money in the Outlaw Galaxy, but doing bounty hunting or stealing things or smuggling is like probably the best way to make ends meet. Characters in Orbital Blues Adventures tend to also be space cowboys and also have their own troubles, and that is pretty apparent the moment that you meet them usually. So finding somebody and trying to like make ends meet and get them to help you with something or help them with something is like kind of the bulk of the gameplay loop, and it results in these sort of highly cinematic heist adventure moments where you're trying to deal with this like emotion heavy role playing that tends to exist as a result of gameplay. And because it's a role playing game, that either breaks down into tragedy or comedy depending on how good you are at rolling dice in the middle of a session. So it all kind of builds out from there, I suppose.
I love the idea of being good at rolling dice, like it's a skill issue. If you
Yeah, I mean, you're probably just bad, Chris. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
get good.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, get good.
It's also like hard to imagine it not being a little funny, which is the best way I think for narrative structure to evolve. You want to have people in a situation where it's not just murderously depressing, even though we too, spoiler, make games about political economy, but it is kind of how role playing games go, that they're always a little funny. So I definitely love the you're all in a spaceship doing a thing genre. I love Firefly, that whole all the sort of reference notes for a game like this. So I think it's fun to kind of set up emotions around paying rent, essentially. And really have that at the heart, the loop of the game. Because a lot of games have it, but it's buried, right? Like I think in a Traveler or Mothership, you're doing stuff for money, but it isn't quite as tied to the assumption that like you said, it's like 80% of whatever money you make is just going to go right back to the company. So I think putting that front and center sort of tells the player how to approach their game. And are they really saving the universe here, or is it what it feels like to survive, which I think we can all relate to.
Yeah. I'm getting notes of Traveler for sure, and Mothership, but also I think the low hanging fruit. We got Cowboy Bebop. Genre touchstones. And I'm curious, Zach, if we can drill down a bit. When you say genre emulation, what do you mean by that, and how is that put into practice in your game design, specifically in Orbital Blues, but elsewhere generally, however you want to take it?
So the bulk of it for me is that there are a lot of role-playing games, and there are a lot of role-playing games all about different things. And for me, what I'm trying to do with a role-playing game is create an experience that is shared between me as the GM and my friends, and it is my job as the writer, publisher, capitalist agent here to make sure I can put a game in your hands, which you will hopefully give me money for, so I can pay rent and stuff, that fixes that job, right? And for me, the genre emulation is a really important part of that, because I want to make it clear to the player and the GM what my expected gameplay looks like, right? Because what I just described to you are your cowboys are poor and they need to make some money, so they're going to find someone who is also sad and do a job so all their money disappears at the end of the session. That is the plot of 22 of the 25 Cowboy Bebop episodes and 6 of the 9 Firefly episodes, right? Sometimes we get to the end of the arc and there's something involving saving the galaxy, but most of the time they're just trying to put food on the table, right? And that for me is an understanding that I want to be able to communicate this common language of what we expect the game to feel like and what we're attempting to do. And sometimes for me, that is as simple as there's an anime I really want to do here. Or sometimes there is a type of story that I think is being undersold or underprovided for, at least, within the game systems that exist as large. I'm not really interested in making a Dungeons and Dragons game because there are 1 million Dungeons and Dragons games, to the point where media warps with a gravitic sense around the idea of what Dungeons and Dragons is, and the media that Dungeons and Dragons is representing is no longer actually what is happening anymore, because it's feeding onto itself and just consuming its own tail, right?
Oh my god, D&D really is AI.
I wouldn't put it, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, for me, that is about because those are the 3 things I say. Is I'm interested in everyone at the table knowing what we're expecting to be doing. So we're more characters following a script a little bit, while also writing and doing all that stuff and having all the production elements that happen in an RPG. So that there's a common language for what is expecting to happen and why someone could be excited about getting one of my games, because they want to play a Dark Tower RPG or a Darkest Dungeon RPG or a Interview of a Vampire RPG, right?
Yeah.
Because those are the kind of things we're making. And as I kill all the low-hanging fruit, I'm getting later on in my career, I'm starting to have to think of weirder and more wonderful things than I'm trying to make RPGs of. But we're getting there. I'm a couple years from running out, at least, I hope.
You gotta start somewhere. You have to start with the low-hanging fruit and climb up to the branches.
Yeah,
however we want to.
Orbital Blues is not a low-hanging fruit. There's a lot of really interesting stuff happening in that space, but it was certainly one of the things that the moment Sam told me that he wanted to make a game that looked and felt like this, I was like, oh hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah. And just to underpin that, because it comes up on the show a lot, we try to talk about and sort of separate out when we get into the weeds of game design, the difference between, narrative structure, what are the loops the players are going on, versus setting, so what are the details that bring it to life, which is often conflated with genre at a bookstore, and then really genre in a technical sense, to what you're getting at is kind of expected emotionality, and what are the kinds of things the people in the world are experiencing, because you could have the same universe, right? You could have the Orbital Blues universe, but you're playing a game where you are the evil corpos, just doing arbitrage, looking at numbers, and that game would be very different, even though it's in the same setting. So I think it's cool to sort of start there, and I think again we align in that way on, you want to give people handholds or some way to sort of like a handshake, which we've talked about with Vex in the chat. Like you want to have a handshake so players know right away, like, okay, this is what I'm being asked to do. I'm being asked to do a Firefly. I'm being asked to do a Cowboy Bebop. And they kind of get that. And then you can always change and make it weirder and whatever, but you want to give them something where they know the journey they're going on, and they know it's going to be a fun, epic journey. It's going to be worth going on.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to laugh, and, you know, it's going to be weird.
Yeah, it gives you the touchstones without having to be like an IP RPG. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I appreciate your kind of mindful approach to this, where it's like, well, we can have those genre touchstones. We can do the Dark Tower thing, but it doesn't have to be the Dark Tower TTRPG, because I think it's good to have genre constraints for players, no matter how abstract those become, without having it be a specific IP constraint, which like flat.
Yeah, they're like lighthouses pointing towards shore, but they're not anchors dragging you. They're not like setting you in a place. They're just saying, hey, this is over here. 'Cause Zach, I mean, you can respond to other points, but I just wanted to ask also how this has been collaborating with other people with this kind of, you know, pretty specific genre that you're bringing up. But then to Chris's point, it's not an IP. It's open to anything. And whether it's about Orbital Blues Month or just in general, you know, when you collab, as you said, with other people, it's not your idea anymore. It's run of its own thing. So,
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to make an IP game. Like, I've thought about it a lot, and a lot of people ask me, like, or is there a license you'd really like to get? Is there something you'd be really excited by? And it's like, well, I can think of one or two, but like, I really like being able to sit in the uncanny valley space of wanting to feel like something, but being a tribute to it, and sometimes like being able to mix in more elements you wouldn't do otherwise. And also, like, I've got way too much ADHD for an approvals process, guys. Like, I don't know if you've ever had any experience of talking to somebody who's working on, you know, proper like IP, big budget RPGs or other work. Like, cannot imagine trying to do that. It's sometimes difficult enough to get stuff out the door when it's me and my two friends.
It's too much paperwork.
So it's a lot of paperwork.
It's way too much paperwork.
There's lots of really good RPGs that are within the same genre. You know, there is a Cowboy Bebop RPG. It's really good. It's cool. You should play it. It's made by my friend Mike from Mana Project. It's really cool. And you know, but I wouldn't want to write for it. I wouldn't want a, you know, but within that space, like, it's very interesting because like genre ultimately, like, owning the IP while understand what it's trying to be is really exciting and important to me. And one of the things about working on a project like Orbital Blues Month is that the other people can do so much more with my idea, our idea of what Orbital Blues can be, and take it in so many different directions. Like, I would have never thought to have done a bunch of the stuff that is happening in these adventures. You know, we've got like a hacking adventure, we've got a romance adventure, there's like a sort of space truckers one, there's Infinity of Ships, which Wes is coming in to talk about, is like NASCAR / Formula. Sorry. Infinity of the. Why am I saying Infinity of Ships?
Infinity Ships is Adam. We'll cover all that.
Infinity. The Orbital Blues spaceship racing one, which is like, it's kind of, at least I thought about it first when talking to Linkadega about wanting to do something similar a few years ago, when they said to me, there's nothing sadder in the world than driving very, very fast and slightly left. And I've been thinking about that ever since, right? While knowing that there is nothing I can do as a British person to write something that expresses that interference, because like, NASCAR is such a thing with a sense of place as well that like wouldn't be for me. But I'm so excited that Wes and the team, with a little bit of help from Lynn as well, I hope I put them in direction. I think they're writing on it somewhere. Are going to be making something so cool like that. I'm really excited because like ultimately, if you're working in the realm of an IP, right, and you are Capcom or whatever, or Sony or Warner Brothers or whoever the heck owns whichever IP you're after, they want you to make an RPG that is within their bounds, it exists within the IP they're comfortable with, and exists to sell Funko Pops, right? Ultimately, is how I've always thought of it, very disparagingly. And that's not to speak illy of the work that lots of incredible designers do while designing for IPs, but they are making a thing that is ultimately a product that is designed to excite and agitate RPG fans of that thing. Right. Whereas we aren't making something here which is intended to be a reflection of a larger IP that exists. You can play it in that tabletop form. Something is being developed top down from a licensor, right? What is happening with something like Orbital Blues Month is that I'm presenting the idea of what something could be, and then asking people to make something bigger and more exciting than I, as the original creator, could ever imagine, right? And then they go off, they make their thing, they put it out into the world, and I'm not asking for a royalty fee or a license. They're just going. I want to see what they make because I'm excited about it. I'm so fucking pumped to see what thing they can put out into the world that is larger and more Orbital Blues than I, as the person who sat down and wrote half of the manuscript in 2021, could have ever imagined, right? It's something that fills me with excitement because I don't have the experiences and the background and the excitement that those other people will have about the thing they want to do with my thing, right? And there's no world in which that being larger can diminish or infringe on the book I made originally. It just shows new worlds that can appear, that can fill this interstellar outlaw-filled outlaw galaxy. And as long as it uses 2d6 and has the 3 stats and, has sadness in it, then it can be, is, and will be Orbital Blues. So that's part of the custodianship for me. It's about people picking up the baton and running the next leg of the race, and then seeing where we get to. Because it's not all in the same direction. It's a fucking cascade in a million different myriad angles of weird stuff that's going to appear out of this month. And I'm really excited about that. I just can't wait to see what they're going to do. Because none of it is going to be what I expected. Mm-hmm. And as the person who was involved there from the ground up, it's fucking fascinating to get to see where it's going to go.
And so that brings us to Orbital Blues Month again, which I think, so you mentioned a few things already, so just to bring the back to set them up, having a license and having a license that's very generous, encourages people or doesn't discourage them. What are some other things you've done over the years and specifically for, in 2026 for this project to get into a situation where you could be excited and people and admire making stuff, maybe also some new folks? How did you put together the team for this month? Any advice or anything, reflecting on that aspect of, okay, I've worked on a game with 2 people I know well and we made a cool game and now it's gone to this next level of kind of community. Because I think a lot of us who make games, we don't always know. I mean, it's. I think a lot of games nowadays, indie RPGs, even if they're very beautiful, they're read. They're not all played and supported by a community, and I think it's very special to have that. So I think one question, the highest sense, is just how do you do that? But of course, that's an impossible one to answer, right? But just what are some things that you did to sort of support or not prevent that, if that makes sense? Yeah.
How success go? No.
I mean, the ultimate thing for me, and I am monumentally and utterly biased within this space, is that I am a play supremacist, right? I think that reading the thing and being excited about it is good. I'm happy you bought the book and gave me money. That's the thing that's going to pay my bills right now. But the thing that's going to make sure that the work is being consumed is getting the thing at the table, getting it played, telling other people about it, right? So for me, I did a podcast with the guys from Many Sided Media called Talk at the Table, where I talk about this a lot. It's about centering play and making games playable. For us, there's loads of steps that have kind of gone along that space. The first is making something which you look at it, you open it up, it immediately tells you what you're doing, it gets you excited, and it demands play. Right? It needs to go out and say, I have to get this to the table stat, because anybody who is capable of running RPGs and getting a group together already has a million games they want to play, and yours has to be at the top of that list, right? So you've got to excite people to play. The second thing is accessibility. We make PDFs of our games really freely available. You are specifically instructed to share those PDFs with your group. Books are hopefully not too expensive, but if not, you can pirate it, and I do not care about that. I'm excited that you get to play the game, and if you want to support me later, that is good. PDF distribution methods we use on the SoulMuppet website are ludicrously easy to pirate from, and I'm sure there are a million links on the website pages right now, and I work hard to make sure that that is the case. I want to get things in people's hands so they play them, and then that is the ultimate version of consumption for me. The other thing we do for that accessibility, which is a little bit more obvious from looking at the website rather than talking to me, is that everything has a free quick start. There is a quick start that is generous with how it looks and how it feels and what it looks like. It tells you about the game, but also it is free. It has pre-made characters, and it has hopefully 2 to 4 sessions of adventuring in it. Not just a one-shot, like a nice, healthy, short campaign that always makes the players go at the end, well, what are we doing now? What are we doing next week? Leads into a big game at that. The next thing is working with actual play folks to make sure there are examples of people playing the game on the internet in as highly edited and exciting a format as possible so that people can listen and imagine themselves doing it. We've been lucky enough to sponsor a couple of incredible actual plays which have made people understand how to run the game with really good GMs and really excited players in a nicely, tightly edited format that's understandable so that they can then hopefully get the game to the table. We've been really happy with some of the partnerships we've worked on the last few years. We've done stuff with Euphoria. We've done stuff with My First Dungeon, which has a couple APs of our games. But there's tons of other supported stuff on our website. And when you look on the SoulMuppet website, it tells you the 1 million places that you can watch the game being played, right? So we'll kind of make this funnel, which is about centering play. And then once you've done that, you've got the thing to the table, and people will then come and buy more of the things that are available because they're actually playing the game, right? So centering play for me was the most important step of how to grow this from something with just an idea in a PDF or a physical book that sits in a corner to something that is like leafed through and loved and exists and has dice everywhere and notes cascading out of the brain of the person. It needs to play, it needs to blossom from the book because that is its intent. It is intended to spawn play, which makes game and subsequently for you commerce ultimately, but primarily game to happen because I'm making art because I want to share it with you and I want you to use it, right? Because it's just a seed coiled up until it can burst into the tree of play, right? Following on from that, once you've got all those people excited, all those people playing about it, the license really helps. And in terms of like how we approached to and came up with this project, it started about 9 months ago. I was at Gen Con. I was walking to a meeting with Backerkit and I was like, ooh, why don't we do a collaboration month? Because I was looking at and thinking about some of the really exciting collaboration months that were coming up over the next few months. We've seen Mothership Month last year. We did Mouse Ritter Month this year. We've had 2 Mothership Months now, actually, now I think about it. And looking at those and understanding that like those were something that was really positive for that game. Mothership and Mouse Ritter are 2 of my favourite games, particularly Mouse Ritter. I think Mouse Ritter might be my favourite RPG. Mouse Ritter is my favourite RPG. I'm really a big fan of that. And looking at what those guys are doing and seeing how like their vibrant third-party community existing as a result of very similar licenses to the one that we had. Troika is another like pillar in the third-party license space that I'm really jealous of. And basically looking at those games and those monthly runs down, wouldn't it be cool if we did one of those? And then like, jealousy and rage driving most of the things I do, and meaning that we decided to run a month shortly after, talked Backerkit into it, and now we're running it come of April. Getting people on board was really exciting. We reached out to our friends first, people who were like most excited about making stuff, people who I knew had put out small amounts of third-party content for Orbital Blues before. There have been zines, there have been books, a couple of them are available on our website. Most of them are kind of like itch.io things, and then approaching those creators and saying, hey guys, we want to do a thing. Do you want to come with us? And the overwhelming response we got from those people was either, hey, 6 to 9 months isn't a lot of time to put a project together, we'll be back next year, or heck yeah, show me the way. And from there, a bunch of what SoulMuppet does is about knowledge sharing and uplifting other people in the industry around us. We run an amazing event in the UK at a convention called Dragon Meet in London called Muppet Meet, where we basically run a load of knowledge sharing seminars and networking events. And basically like explaining to people some of the stuff I've been talking to you about now and doing more consulting stuff in that space. And basically going out to the people we wanted to work with and saying, hey, you might have not done a crowdfunding project before, but you've made some stuff for Orbital Blues. My time is yours. I am your loyal and obedient servant. Let me guide you through this process and help you out through it, and also act as the tentpole project, the spearhead, the flagship of this thing with this cool new idea we have, and let's see if we can lift up a load of people behind us so that they can make a load of stuff and they can do stuff which I could have never imagined, like we talked about earlier, right? A lot of it has been, we started out with maybe 12 projects, and kind of circumstance have got us down to about 7. And that's a space I'm really happy with. It means that like all those people I'm working with get a bunch of FaceTime with me and a bunch of, promotion from the main SoulMuppet account when we're doing socials and talking about it. And like, we're not ending up with something that's too ambitious, because this was really ambitious, like coming together with all these different projects. And, a lot of people having not done a crowdfunding project before and kind of, working together to make this really big and exciting thing. So I feel like that answers all the questions. I feel like I've just been talking for like 6-7 minutes with bounding enthusiasm
it's really
about
good.
cowboys.
Usually we jump in and say things about how Chris doesn't like skeletons, or I say something about rap music. But in this case, you were saying really smart things that I agreed with. So I was really just nodding.
Really throwing me under the bus for the skeleton thing, huh?
I mean, we're joking, we're japing and joking.
How's wrong with skeletons, Chris?
They don't have fucking tendons, man. They don't have anything to keep them together. It doesn't make any sense. It makes
and
no
the
sense.
podcast drives off a cliff.
It's magic. It's Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't need to make sense.
No. A wizard can't just do it. I won't stand for it. We'll talk about this
very
later.
fine Spider-Man webs. No, but yeah, Zach,
is for.
Just to underscore, so, community support is not just the license, but it is, I definitely think designing from play as a first principle is something we totally agree with. I've personally just never, and it's not to knock anyone who does design more philosophical games, but I like designing games that I can actually get people to play because they're really fun. And if there aren't people who want to play them, to me, that is a feedback mechanism that is very simple, which is there's maybe something not quite as fun about the game as I wanted, and maybe there's something I can do about that. So I think that's a great one. And then, just trying to kind of, build excitement, work with folks, and for a first, for Orbital Blues, at least a first Backerkit month project, you said ultimately it went from like 12 to 7 or so projects. So we're covering a little over half. On the show. So that's cool. And it does make sense that that's still a pretty big effort. But that seems very reasonable.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's not 100 people, right?
It's 6 more Orbital Blues projects on a crowdfunding platform that have ever been ran by anybody who isn't me. So I'm excited. If we were at 1, if it was a 3 project launch, I'd be excited. But
right.
7 is amazing.
Yeah, they won't let you do a 3 project launch over there at BK. So, sorry, Chris, you were going to say something.
I nothing productive. I was just going to say, even 1 or 2, I feel like I would be over the moon for sure. But 12 to 7 is amazing.
That's actually a good point, is that this is something you don't have to do a Backerkit month, which are, for a variety of reasons, they're created ahead of time in various ways. This could be a game jam, right, as well. So if someone has a game they want to support, and there are people who want to make stuff, their friends want to make stuff. And we may have one of those coming up.
Run game jams. Game jams are the coolest thing in the world. And getting other people to do stuff in a shape you've dreamt up feels magical. We've ran Orbital Blues game jams before. We've run Best of Buried game jams before. They've gone really well. But this was a bit of a level up from us because there's a commitment to something physical, which is exciting. But all forms of creation are valid, as long as it's something that exists and is cool that you as the creator are proud of, and that's just a sort of thing from me. Is I'm a print freak. I like books being played. I like games being played and books being in hands, and that's just what drives me. But it shouldn't limit the shape of anyone else's creativity by any means. So yeah.
No,
my wife hates books, as you can see behind for those watching.
No, I love books. I will say I'm not a book freak when it comes to RPGs, but I like what you said because that's how I think of it. Is I want my one book with all my notes in it when I go GM, kind of a vibe of like I'm ready to GM with the tome, and I think that is a different thing from being a printo file, which I've become much more through the process of making them. Whereas normally I'm a reader, so I like PDFs because they don't weigh anything ultimately. I mean, beyond cost, but. So I can see all the sides there. I will say I have plenty of questions, and we're running out of time. But Chris, do you have a question? I don't want to keep jumping in.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then this is I think a little related, a little unrelated. So take it however you want, Zach. But music's a big topic that came up. We were talking to our buddy Roderick Maxino at Elwood Games. I'm excited to talk to Adam from Stations. I know Orbital Blues also has like a strong musical thing happening. And I'm wondering if you could reflect on that a little and how you view, because, and again, Chris, you may have more to say on this than I will. That's why I'm looking at you.
It's the blues in Orbital Blues, man.
It's the blues. But like, I feel like Chris, you and I talked a lot about music with Danse Macabre, which I've not, I thought about music with Sylphid as a little bit as an afterthought. And when I talked with my friends who were musicians, that's something we spoke about. But it wasn't something that I thought of when writing a book. I didn't think, I need to find musicians for this. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like, Zach, I get the sense Orbital Blues has a closer sort of genetic relationship with music. So I'm wondering if you have just thoughts on music and RPGs in general.
Is it that every time you pick up the book or every time you look at it, you just hear Tank by Yoko Kanno, just immediate, like the first sting of Tank just play in your head?
Such a good song.
It's a great song.
I mean, it's a great song. So for us, right? Orbital Blues was like always meant to be about music, right? And for us, for Sam specifically, the existence of like the game being about Americana is less to do with Cowboy Bebop and more to do with the music that Sam likes listening to, you know? And I think it's one of the things that's super interesting about the creative process and the trio in that all of us have Orbital Blues with different types of music in it. There's playlists available that you can find in the SoulMuppet Discord of all of our different takes on Orbital Blues. Mine is really full of jazz and blues and bebop and sort of any number of weird styles of instrumental, mostly music, because I don't think Orbital Blues has words to me. I don't think music of books should have words, but that's just a personal take. Whereas Sam's is way more interested in like Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, like bits of early blues and rock and roll and bits of country and bluegrass, and has much more of a sort of early Western punk feel to like how mine does. But then as that goes through the book, all the spaceships that we talk about are mostly references to music. You're encouraged during character creation to pick the soundtrack to your character. When you voluntarily choose for an Orbital Blues character to die, you do this thing called a swan song, which is a move where like you play your favorite song and you get a load of buffs and then you die at the end of the scene, right? It is obsessed with this idea of musical cinema, right? As in like the idea that this is a game that has a soundtrack and you should feel it in the DNA of it. The logical next step from that was for us to make our own music. I like to joke to people that the only thing I do which is less profitable than making RPGs is using those RPGs to subsidize my indie record label, which has coming up on its 4th album, which is crazy. During the first project, we made a cassette of a in-universe band called the Deltas, which was portrayed by my wonderful friend Chris Bissett, who made games such as The Wretched and a bunch of really cool Mork hacks and Down in Yongadi and a million other awesome games you should check out at Loot the Room UK. And that was a sort of Shadow Spectres guitar rock album of an in-world band called the Deltas that Josh had made a load of music posters for. And we ended up making an in-world cassette with a bunch of lore associated with it, and it came with an adventure where you had to heist the record masters from the label after they had a disagreement. You know, there was vibes. in the second crowdfunding project we did, Chris came back again and did another album from the Deltas, but specifically like an experimental jazz album that spoke a bit more to like what my idea of Orbital Blues music was, because they're really excited about all types of weird, wonderful music. So we got that made, and then also we worked with an incredible artist called Behold, who is mostly famous on TikTok and Instagram at the moment for making a Appalachian Mountain synth alien album, which is called oh my god, every word is forgotten out of my head. It doesn't matter. Check out B/Hold on the internet. You'll be able to find the album. It's really fucking cool. So they made a soundtrack for a actual play by My First Dungeon. So we turned that into an album called Godspeed, and that was also available as cassettes. Then we had 3 cassettes, and this year we decided to reflect the originality of all these different cool projects by, for each different part of the crowdfunding project, each of the 7 individual projects on Orbital Blues Month, we made a single. And that single is going to be made available to backers of that project. And it is related to and briefed by the creator of that project so that Behold can make a single out of it that like reflects the vibes, the aesthetic, the genre, the specific tinge of Orbital Blues that relates to that project, and then made a single out of it. And then we're putting that into a cassette as well that you're going to get if you back enough projects. So there's music everywhere, and it's different, and it's weird, and it's peculiar, and it really tells you about the setting you're in. And also it's all in cassettes because I'm a bit of a format freak now, and I don't own a cassette player, but I have funded the creation of 3 different cassettes.
That's very funny.
Because
I'm glad you say that, because I also don't have. So I was like, man, I couldn't even listen to these. I need to get them.
No, it doesn't matter.
Just buy them. They're on Spotify.
They're on Spotify.
Yeah, just buy the
Bandcamp of the creators is the better place to go.
Yeah, Bandcamp.
We made them availably digitally as well, but like for me, it was important that the physical format was a cassette because that was the most retro future Americana format that is still vaguely supported. Like, I wish I could give you. Prisma discs or whatever
Betamax.
Was a thing.
Yeah,
at the time.
you need to get us some 8 tracks. 8 tracks.
Those are a little bit harder to get hold of.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I have a cassette guy, and he does work for me now. Similarly, we have an adventure box set that is entirely included and printed inside a real VHS tape. A real VHS box, including the nodules.
Nice.
Which it's it's just happening, and people like the skeuomorphic in-universe Technica of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, I appreciate how much thought has gone into the music projects for this. What wife mentioned for Dance Macabre, we worked with some local New York City dungeon synth folks, and also some folks from Texas as well. And that was a lot of fun, but it was mostly just like, here's the game, send us back whatever you think, a little bit less curated. But I like the idea of like making your own album out of it, like really, really going for it. But I did just see most of the people that are on the Dance Macabre OST at a Dungeon Synth show this past weekend, and I picked up a bevy of cassette tapes. I also don't have a player. I don't care. I want the physical object. It's like getting zines. It's like getting books that you're not going to.
You're going to build a little house with them.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to build my next house out of.
I do own an Orbital Blues branded cassette player, which is a one of one in the world. That is my technical cassette player, but it doesn't really work that well.
Classic Orbital Blues technology.
I feel like it's better if like the artifact exists and you can't touch it. It feels like and maybe I'm not a play supremacist for music. Maybe that's like
just for
a different set of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But but. Yeah, the collaboration with those artists has been some of my favorite stuff because, like, what I was talking about earlier with, like, they go away and they take something that you would never have imagined.
Yeah.
Right? I'm very musical. Like, there's music all in me. I played a lot of jazz as a child. I, was in choirs. I sang a lot. I'm very musical. But, like, the idea of, like, from Whole Craft spinning up an album is just something completely out of my skill set. Especially something that has been done often, like in character is crazy. Like the idea of being able to and I can do that as a writer. I can be like, yes, I am writing this section with this voice, with this language, because it is a craft that I have. Whereas the idea of being able to sit in the mind of an imaginary person and make music as if I was them is truly beyond me. And that's one of the most exciting things about getting music from these guys. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And also we get to cosplay bands that don't exist.
No, I love that. I love going deeper and deeper into the diegesis. So I love that that's the direction that these, they're not random merch artifacts. They're in the world things frothing up, bubbling out of the world of Orbital Blues. So with that, we're coming up on an hour. So Chris, I don't know if you had any other substantive questions.
No. I mean, I think, just our traditional last question tacked on with, where can we find Orbital Blues Month? Where can we support projects? Where can we pick things up? And then also, for yourself personally, Zach, where can folks find you online, and where can we get more SoulMuppet?
My name is Zach, or Jelly Muppet. I use they, them pronouns, and I am on the internet everywhere that you can imagine as Jelly Muppet. My company is called SoulMuppet Publishing. You've heard about Orbital Blues, but we make many other wonderful games. We have a sad gay vampire RPG called Paint Town Red. There's a doomed Arthurian Western called Inevitable. There's a dungeon crawling if it was a job and it was bad RPG called Best Left Buried that we did. There's tons of other stuff coming out. We've got Dark Souls RPG coming out soon. We've got a huge back catalogue of exciting and animated games, all of which you can find on soulmuppet-store.co.uk or .com if you're American themed. The URL goes out there. You can buy all those RPGs from us in that place, and you can also look for Orbital Blues Month on Backerkit, which is launching April 1st at 4 o'clock GMT, whatever that is in your local money, hopefully sometime in the morning on the East Coast before you've even woken up on the West, or wherever else you are in the world. We'll be running that project for about a month. There are 7 fantastic collaborators, all making their own theme of Orbital Blues, Sad Space, Cowboy material. You should go and check those out. Follow those projects now so we can send you incessant marketing emails with diegetic art in them and the biggest vibes you can get while still being made out of paper or plastic. And yeah, that's me. That's SoulMuppet Publishing. And thank you so much both for having me on, guys. Really happy to be here. Love chatting.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. This was super fun. I'm excited to see everything that comes out of Orbital Blues Month. I'm excited. I'm already sad, so I'm excited to be a cowboy in space while being sad.
And I'm a vampire, so between the two of us, I think so. We didn't even really
covered.
We didn't get into vampires, queerness in games, politics. We touched on a little, but there's so much more.
We're gonna have to bring you back on.
Yeah, we'll have to come back on again. That's fine. You've got my Calendly link. You can book me. It's perfect
for sure. So for now, everyone check out Orbital Blues Month, and we'll have on 3 more. So not all the creators, but a good chunk. And we're excited to kind of go down a little rabbit hole of a mini series. And if you're into the mini series, let us know. We might do some others. Sure. This just kind of fell into our laps in terms of games that games I think are cool and wanted to learn more about. So thanks again, Zach, for helping us put together. Thanks, Chris, as always, and everybody in the chat. Big 'em ups. We'll catch you all on the next sad spaceship in 2 weeks. All right, thanks so much.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks for listening to Why We Roll. Our theme music is by the brilliant Sam Tyndall and Arpline.
If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us on all social media at Stillfleet. You can find out more about Danse Macabre, Stillfleet, and all of our games over at stillfleet.com.
Every hero strikes out on their adventure for a different reason.
To prove myself worthy of my mother's praise.
To write my own story and discover who I really am.
To prove to my family that I am more than they believe me to be.
To revive the god that has chosen me.
But when the fragile balance of the world is in jeopardy, and sinister forces move in the darkness, heroes will be tested, pushed to their limits and beyond. And it will be left to them to determine if they are up to the task. There is a darkness rising. Will they be able to overcome the challenges and meet this evil head-on?
For my god.
For my story.
For my freedom.
For the world.
To restore the balance. Modified Role Season 2, The Chronicles of Erin, a D&D 5e actual play podcast. New season, new characters, new story. Find us on all the usual podcasting apps or at modifiedrole.com.